All right, welcome to class, guys. APS seminar. So this week, our class is only 2 hours long, right? So the first session is 3 hours, the second class is only 2 hours, and then our final class will only be 1 hour. So we kind of trail it down as we go. But this week, you guys have oral presentations, so 5 to 10 minutes. You guys, I sent the reminder last night about class. I also sent kind of the excerpt from our handouts, which talk about the oral reports due. So 5 to 10 minutes, just about your experience in APS so far with your clients, techniques you're using, what are you observing about those techniques. You've kind of selected modalities from your elective classes to apply towards APS. So I want you guys to be like reflecting on how those modalities are feeding into your professional goals. So I am interested to hear what you guys have to say. Would anyone like to go first?
I'd be happy to go first.
David, thank you for volunteering.
We all here?
Everyone is here, yes.
Awesome. All right.
Hi, Gloria. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. Go ahead, David.
Okay. I'll start out with one of my electives has changed. One was canceled. I was going to include craniosacral, but that was rescinded. So I'm changing that one to another group of electives called, I think it's the Franklin method.
Yes. Okay.
So I was going to have more to include in this, but Franklin has not come up yet.
So we haven't taken any Franklin method classes yet so far?
No, none.
Oh, okay.
So what I have finished taking though are the 2 aromatherapy classes.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up will be the lymphatic drainage class. So to date, I'm going to tell you what I have learned and incorporated about aromatherapy, as well as past electives I've taken, such as foot reflexology.
Excellent.
I have been practicing aromatherapy with my practice clients in multiple aspects. One has been topical, using it in conduction, using it as part of a foot massage for foot reflexology. I've been doing this with clients who are mainly big runners or spend a lot of time doing their exercising cardio, and they're on their legs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that was a big improvement. I did the aromatherapy blends directed towards soreness, muscle pain. And I noticed that while working on the feet with these essential oils, I was able to affect not just the feet with that, but the rest of the leg as well. So I really love how using the reflexology, you can kind of, it's not a perfect science, but it does work to some degree. Each body is a little unique. Someone might be, one client was especially affected by it, and one was a little more, reflexology is not really a thing for me, but they both benefited nonetheless. The other way I've been learning from aromatherapy on how to assist my clients with that is working with anxiety. For the HBOT, for the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, I've been making aromatherapy inhalers. I don't know if everyone knows what those are, but they're little plastic uh, tubes. They look like chapstick containers, but when you take the lid off, you get a scent instead. And I've been designing the blends to soothe nerves, anxiety, really help keep them calm. Because anyone with like a little bit of claustrophobia would have trouble with the chambers. And I've been working with an autistic friend as well, and he suffers greatly from all manner of anxiety due to this. He's not super functional on the scale, but it is enough that after about 2 weeks of working with him, he's now comfortable in the office and comfortable in the chamber. He still needs to hide while he's in there. He goes into defense mode with his Game Boy, but having that anxiety inhaler really has helped stabilize the environment for him, so he knows what to expect. One sense, smell. So he's now familiar. It did take a while though. Working with autistic clients is not swift at all. It took just talking to him, telling him what I did. Then I needed to let that sit for about a week and talk to him. And then I talked to him again, inviting him to come and be a client and see if he would benefit from HBOT and aromatherapy as well. And then I needed to let that sit for a week. And then he contacted me back saying he would be willing to do that. So it does take time, but it is worth it. And I planted the seeds a little while ago. As soon as I figured out how to do these aromatherapy back in the beginning of January, I started, I want to say, mass producing aromatherapy inhalers and spreading them out. So I gave them to everyone I knew.
Have you found that particular scents work better for HBOT clients than others?
I have, particularly it's wild mandarin. It's sweet wild mandarin orange.
So a very fragrant, citrusy.
Yes, it's very uplifting. It really gets you energizing. It's energized, but at the same time, it's very stabilizing. It really kind of balances your emotions. And I did pair that with some frankincense, sometimes some lavender, because that's often such a familiar scent to people. I noticed that the most effective inhalers for anxiety were ones that included a scent that is familiar. Like, I want to say generically familiar. For some people, that's lavender. For some people, that's orange, like a citrus. And that, I think that was a key discovery I made, was there was a lot of preconceived built-in perception about scents. So there's a lot of associative, I can't remember the specific word, a lot of associative parasympathetic behavior associated with scents, because it goes directly to the brain. It just bypasses the consciousness and I want to say the sympathetic nervous system. It can just switch from one to the other immediately. Some people have a favorite food. like a comfort food,
Mhm.
I want to call it. And there are also comfort scents that a lot of people aren't aware of. That was a big discovery for me.
And I'm
And
sure for them too, especially if we can incorporate those scents uh, in conjunction with our therapies like HBOT or reflexology or whatever
and
modality we're practicing.
and for massage, I also decided to incorporate aromatherapy in a similar manner. Use maybe 2 essential oils that were directly for maybe pain relief, topical, muscle
Mhm.
soreness, and inflammation. And then I want to say include a potent scent like the citrus that
Mhm.
has I want to say an overwhelming aroma, but
Mhm.
doesn't detract from the other 2 oils' effects because it's not the primary one.
Yeah.
And I've been using my best example of what I've learned from that is my dad has lateral epicondylitis. It can be very painful and very inflamed,
Mhm.
and it's right there beneath the surface, right on that tendon.
Mhm.
And this is really effective for that. A familiar scent, particularly orange for him, was calming, so he was able to relax and let me work on his arm. And then the other 2 essential oils, I believe, included again frankincense and peppermint, which were very good topical pain relievers.
Mhm.
Had a wonderful effect of reducing the inflammation and the that specific pain right in those areas, right specifically in that lateral epicondyle where the pain is focalized.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like the modalities that you're moving into you're already wielding them well to good effects.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see how you're able to incorporate Franklin method.
so am I. Right now I've only had the aromatherapy and foot reflexology, so that's all I've been able to
Mhm.
practice and incorporate. But
Mhm.
I'm really excited for Franklin and the lymphatic drainage, because especially for my autistic clients, those the lymph in particular is such a gentle touch modality that
Mhm.
this is something they would be okay with for the next step. They're not comfortable at all with massage yet. Even that
Yep.
word is a little too overwhelming, but they can handle just hands-on, because that's almost what it is for them. It's just
Mhm.
hands. It's just getting comfortable with hands,
Yep.
one step at a time.
Yep. Baby steps. Baby steps. Yeah. Well, good job, David. I look forward to seeing how this develops further. But it seems like you're off to a fantastic start.
It's been exciting.
Yeah. Awesome. So who would like to go next?
I'd like to
Sure. Go ahead, Sarah.
just knock it out. Just get more nervous until it happens anyway. Okay. So in the APS proposal, I included massage for people living with cancer, great class. Franklin Method Spine, which I thought would be kind of cool to talk about, considering David's presentation there,
Mhm.
and the pain and stress class. They weren't my ideal choices because I don't
But that's
really,
okay.
yeah,
But
I
that's
didn't
okay.
really incorporate a whole lot of these kinds of principles prior to it, but I just chose to look at it as, hey, let's explore this, let's see what happens. Let's see how it'll impact what I do.
Mhm.
So, which it did, which is awesome. So there, first off, there's a lot of overlap between these classes because the tension and stressful mental state that people are in increase both the pain and contraction signals and our negative experience of them. So our experience of pain intensifies with that. And obviously people going through cancer treatments or have been through cancer treatments in the past, there's obviously a huge amount of stress associated with that. So there's a lot of interconnectivity between those topics, which was pretty cool. So for I'll just call it the cancer class for short. It was a good technique class, and it was a lot more applicable to standard massages than I at first thought. It helped me look into the skin's fascial impact on deeper tissues a lot more, because skin rolling has always been very uncomfortable for me. I kind of shied away from really, really superficial techniques just because I hadn't had a great experience with them. I do tend towards lighter pressure when given the opportunity, but just not necessarily the skin on its own. But the cancer class, their maximum depth is still a light pressure for standard massage. So there's a lot of focus on skin and the type of contact you make with that, which and also the environmental focus. So they put so much emphasis on creating an environment that reduces the stress for clients, like, you know, what sounds you have in the background, different positioning techniques that aren't as common. Like, for example, when someone's supine, giving them rolled towels to hold on to just to give them an increased sense of security. And I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing that was emphasized in that class. It's kind of like us holding onto a teddy bear when we sleep, right? You know, it gives us, gives us a little something to focus on. The pacing of the strokes was also very slow, which I actually really liked. I always have moved very slow for the most part, and I felt kind of more at home there than I expected to because of that. And also the different approach to energy and its connection with pressure. I tend to gravitate more towards achieving specific anatomical progress. And while I do have a lot of, you know, love and care for people that I work on, I tend to be more on the cranial side of things and just kind of disregard the energetic component a little bit. Something I tend to neglect. So with these applications in mind, it was pretty cool working on two clients in particular seemed to really benefit from this. One was Heather. She's a very nice lady. She's very, very stressed. She's got a lot going on professionally and personally, a lot more than normal for her, I would say. And I know her fairly well. We work together. So she's kind of the type of person who's like, just get in there, get it done, you know, and she's always in this very amped up state. And no surprise, her body, even though she keeps herself very mobile in spite of it, has a lot of, especially fascial adhesions all over her body, just from the chronic tension and stress she's in. And that just, she's got, you know, fibromyalgia and has had some severe accidents and just, you know, MVAs, all that horrible stuff and surgeries. It's just, she's had a really rough time. So
sounds like it.
Using these kinds of gentler techniques, she was kind of not as open to at first. But it helped her really get down into that parasympathetic state quite a bit. And so kind of leading with that seemed to help her ability to release that inner stress ball a little bit and get better muscular and fascial releases down the line in the session. So I thought that was really cool. And normally I'd be stressed about doing that because at my work, there's, you know, a lot of times it's just a half an hour massage and there's basically no transition time. And so I kind of have to try and get as much done as possible. And I can't just really fully enjoy the you know, just the contact and the working on just the stress reduction as its own entity. So it was really nice to just explore that, and it seemed to help her out quite a bit. And Pedro, yeah, he was another one that really did well with that. He's got a lot going on stress wise, but he responds very well to de-stressing techniques. He pretty much immediately fell asleep every time as soon as I started doing that. It was really funny. And the more I incorporated that, because I've done several sessions with him during this class time, the more I emphasized that, the more he seemed to have lasting improvements because of the parasympathetic activation. So the relief would last longer, the muscle tension would take longer to come back, that kind of thing, which was really nice. And it was also a lot easier on me structurally. These are gentle techniques, and and they're also soothing to me. So it was pretty cool. So the pain and stress class, I'm sure we've all heard lots of different information about the connection between pain and stress, cortisol resistance, all of that, adrenaline, how that impacts the body. That class was really cool because the teacher, Marion, is awesome at connecting energetic information with science information, and she loaded a lot of both into the lecture, even though it was kind of a shorter class. It kind of gave me more respect for using techniques I normally wouldn't set aside time for, like face and scalp massage. I'd normally do specific points on there, like working with the temporalis muscle attachment, for example. But the surface coverage, the more surface you cover on someone's head and face, the more relaxation seems to occur oftentimes, especially on the scalp, because all those good tingles. So, and also being more aware of my mental state. That also connects with the cancer class as well. I kind of go into these things and I try and just put out as good of vibes as I can. But in terms of really grounding myself, I've never really been particularly consistent and good at that. And focusing more on these techniques had quite a relaxing effect on me as well. And it's even at work decreased my stress throughout the day. And it seems people love it. So now, and even just 1 minute of these really seem to help out quite a bit. Again, especially for Pedro and Heather. Let's see. And for Franklin method, that one's really interesting. So I don't know how many of you have taken the Franklin method classes. Sounds like David's pretty interested in it. It's about moving in specific ways that are natural to the body to create systemic and structural improvements, basically. I took the one for the spine. And there's a spine dance that they do that incorporates all the movements of every vertebrae in the spine. It's really cool. And ironically, all of those movements are also in salsa dancing and other Latin dances. If you do those dance properly, it actually does all of those same movements, just in a less intentional way. So I just thought that was a really cool connection. And I haven't used the Franklin method with any of the clients I've done for this class. I incorporated that sense of being in constant motion, doing positions for myself with body mechanics that feel good and aren't just, oh, I should be lower because this makes sense, or I should have my legs more offset because that's what makes sense according to strict body mechanics. Just listening a little bit more about how I can move and staying in constant motion while I'm working on people. I tend to move around quite a bit anyway, just because my joints tend to lock up and stuff gets stiff, but just that sense of fluid motion rather than locking into place. So I'll be holding a squat while I'm working on somebody, and I'll be kind of rotating side to side, for example, and that helps keep my low back more limber. And it was very useful to incorporate more of that for this class.
Good.
Yeah. And it was most useful for Ian, another person I worked on for this class, he's on the larger side. And the releases I did on him before the massage that were different techniques required supporting his leg for long periods of time, and mobilizing the SI joint in various positions. So there was a lot of lifting involved with that and sustained
Mhm.
holds. And that idea of constant motion was very helpful. So that's about it.
Well, very good. It sounds like you're incorporating very nicely. And it also seems to me that this is starting to introduce into your practice moments of mindfulness, where we start to become aware that maybe my body isn't moving and I need to start moving as I massage. Just
Yeah.
the little moments where we really realize I should be paying attention right now.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is a lifelong practice, right? You never get it perfect. You're always practicing. But the important thing is that you take the time to notice those moments.
Yeah.
And the more you take the time to be mindful of what you're doing, the more fluid it will become overall. All of those combinations of techniques and all of the different factors you're trying to consider in your massage will start to, it becomes more reflexive.
Yeah.
And almost every time you move to a new body part, your brain will kind of remember, like, okay, mental check-in, progress check. So staying mindful is very important.
Yeah, that's
Sounds like you're
exactly
doing
what it's
it.
been like. It's really cool. Yeah, especially if
Yeah.
I'm always up in my brain, and that's, you get at work and you get in the groove and you're enjoying it, but
Mhm.
you're just kind of always in fifth gear. And
Yep.
it's so cool. I'm looking forward to being less stressed and doing better work because of it, hopefully.
We are really lucky in that aspect in our jobs,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thanks.
Awesome. Good job, Sarah.
And may I say, you now got me really excited about taking those Franklin method classes.
Yay!
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're really cool. I think you'll dig it. And the teacher's so sweet.
Good job, Sarah. Who would like to go next?
I will.
Let's do it. How are you, Rebecca?
I'm doing okay.
Good to see you.
I'm busy, but I'm doing okay. Okay. I have been working with the 4 mobilities, and all of the mobilities have just sort of merged into the things that I've been doing with my clients. And it's quite interesting how I interact all of them together, and it works really, really well. The mobilities that I've been using is aromatherapy, lymph detox, gua sha, which is the myofascial, and then qigong. And qigong was mostly for myself for a long while, and then but I introduced qigong to my clients to just see how they would actually interact with it, and how that would help them narrow down their stress levels and anxiety problems. And it actually works really well. I mean, just doing just basic little steps. I mean, even if they're just sitting at their desk or something, it works really well. And I was like, oh, well, I could teach this to my clients. It's cool. So I use it on myself continually, but I also introduced it to clients, and it worked really well. The aromatherapy, I would interact with the clients with hydrotherapy, and so I do so some of the clients I actually even did a foot soak with them, and then massage their feet and used some aromatherapy and used some gua sha and some lymph detox and incorporated it. And there was one client that was having really bad pain in her feet, and once I was done, she was like, my feet are amazing. They don't have any pain, and they're feeling amazing. So it works.
Yes.
The the lymph detox, I've always loved it, and I've always used it on the face, but I haven't used it um um in the lower extremities, and
Mhm.
I tried that out, and it worked really, really well. They felt lighter, and happy. Their body felt happier, and so it was really a good experience there. I've always liked gua sha, and I tried some other tools that um, since I have my favorite gua sha tool, I tried some other tools to do gua sha, um, and I learned that there's certain tools that I should use with the upper extremities versus the lower extremities because of the harshness of some of the thinner tools versus the thicker materials. So that was really fun.
Mhm.
Um, and let's see here. I learned about like wow, I actually learned quite a bit. I learned like how different music can impact the um the atmosphere and the client's body themselves. And so if I tried out different types of music with different people to see like how that would interact with the mobilities that I was working with.
Mhm.
And it was really fascinating the how like what one person responded better with harp music, and their body just melted when they had that harp music versus the another person worked really well with piano music, and then those mobilities would just work um even better, which was really interesting to me. I was just like,
Mhm.
sound, hey, cool. So I incorporated that, and that was really, really exciting. And then I also did IMT work, interactive movement therapy. It's an energetic um therapy, sort of like it, it has templates and different things, and
I'm
it's
not
all
familiar.
energetic work. Um, it's like Reiki, but more complicated, let's say, where
Okay.
it actually has templates like strain counter strain, where it has templates to actually you, you interconnect different body parts in order to actually um n- re juvenize and recreate the areas. It's really amazingly effective, but it's really hard to explain. And
So
that's
what did you
what
say it
one
was
thing.
called? IMT?
Yes, IMT, interactive
IMT.
movement therapy.
Movement therapy. So are you putting hands on the client and the client is moving, like mobilizing a body part, or is it like a static touch, like a hands-on? Um,
It's okay. I there's multiple different ways that I do it.
okay.
Some
Okay.
clients I actually have them put their hands in certain spots, or while I put my hands in certain spots.
Okay.
Like for example, I sense their liver isn't doing well, or their kidneys aren't doing well, or their adrenals aren't doing well, or their heart isn't doing well, and there's just a stutter, or there's a dullness to it. And so I tell them to put certain um energetically, I tell them to put their hands on certain areas of the body, and then I
Mhm.
energetically work with those sections and areas, and um it renews itself, and it goes back to the way that it's supposed to be working. And
Okay.
starts flowing and it starts going moving back to what the way that it's supposed to actually work.
Okay.
It's incredible stuff, but it takes a long time to just, it's a very sort of lymphatic sort of thing. You could, but it's even more light touch, not rubbing against the skin, just
Mhm.
placements.
Placements.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So like hands-on is what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. It's like they may be specific like ways that I place my hand or like where I place my hand, but it's essentially we're placing hands, we're holding, we're focusing attention and energy,
yeah,
and then we move to the next body part.
yes,
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah. So if there's let's say
Very
if there's-
similar. Yeah, very similar to Reiki.
Yes, it is. It is. It's just it's more complicated in the sense that you're using the whole body while you're working at it. So, but anyways, it's energetic work.
But
So-
it's working. It's working.
it's working, so it's all good.
Boom. Yeah, boom.
So I don't usually explain it to my clients because they don't need to know. I'm doing what I'm doing. And I just tell them, okay, put your hands here. Don't worry, it will work. But I probably should learn to actually explain it to clients but
It'd be
anyway.
helpful. If
Yeah.
nothing else, at least work yourself down like a canned speech. You know what I'm saying? Just like a canned, like, this is what just a very basic kind of explanation, but something that you can like script and memorize in that way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
refine it. Yeah.
So that they can
Awesome.
actually understand.
Well, it's nice to be able to explain what you're doing. I mean, I feel like as a client, if a therapist isn't able to effectively explain to me what it is that they're doing, then I feel like they don't know what they're doing. And even if you do know what you're doing, your
Yeah.
inability to articulate what you're doing and why it works, and like, well, why are my hands going here and here and not like there and there? But just being able to explain it will always up your cred in their eyes. And when we stumble over explanations or we can't find the words, or especially if we tell a client like, just trust me, it'll work, that can be a red flag sometimes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Just
That's for sure.
keeping that in mind, that's why we want to develop, right, through communication skills, a canned
Yeah.
speech, right, like an elevator speech or something, just your scripted explanation of what it is. And even if it's something you like put in your brochure and you just memorize that blurb in the brochure, at least you got something.
Yeah.
Because to be fair,
Yeah.
I've been doing massage a long time and I've never heard of IMT. I haven't come across that term before. So
Yeah.
especially for the rarer things, it's nice to have
And
a little
I am
paragraph.
I'm going to be going to a certain school to actually learn IMT work. And so
Perfect.
I figured
Perfect.
that I would understand like how to explain it through that school. So
Sure.
I just figured, but until then, that's a great idea to just come up with some blurb that I can explain to actually just help
Yeah.
people.
And remember, you know about all this stuff, and you and I talk, and I say, oh, it's similar to Reiki, and you can be like, actually, it's more akin to like pranic healing than Reiki. I'm like, oh, pranic healing, yeah. You and I understand what we're talking about, but when you take just some rando from the outside and you start doing energy work, they don't know what Reiki is.
Yes.
You know, you and I talk about chi and prana and bioenergy and life force, and they think we're all talking about different stuff. You and I realize we're talking about the same thing, whatever term we use, but that's because you and I are sophisticated in the field that we're talking about. We have to be able to explain that field to everyone without the technical term, without the jargon. You have to be able to break it down easily so that you can explain it to anyone. So that's my recommendation for that one, especially when you get into a more uncommon modality. You really need to be able to explain to people what you're doing, to lay people what you're doing, because you'll be able to explain it to a therapist, because I can fill in the blanks that you miss in your explanation because I understand the system. lay people don't understand the system. You have to tell them you have to explain the whole thing.
Yes, understandable.
Good job, Rebecca. Good job.
So I also worked with Mother, and I really loved the idea that you're impacting a household instead of just the client themselves. And so
Mhm.
that was one of the things that I really enjoyed too.
That is a really unique insight. Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're not just interacting with the client, you're interacting with everyone that client interacts with. So when you make
exactly.
that client a calmer, more peaceful person, you don't just improve her life, you improve her home life and her work life and her friends' lives and all the circles that she runs in.
It's so
Yeah,
beautiful. It's so
we're a
awesome.
drop in the pond. You know what I'm saying? The ripple effect, man.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I love that. I love the impact that you can have in among just, I mean, you're thinking, oh no, I'm just reaching one person. Like, no, you're reaching way more
Mhm.
people because they're teaching the
So
others, and they're doing it on their kids, and their kids are
exactly.
doing it on them.
Exactly. If you're so inclined, if this is something that's tickling your fancy, I highly recommend you look into like the Buddhist principles of karma. People have a misunderstanding of karma. A better, more realistic understanding of what karma is:
Yeah,
consequences. It's you made an action and now
yeah,
there's a consequence. It's not some cosmic tally of
exactly,
everything you've done. Like, no, dude,
exactly.
you did this thing and now this results. And it's a very straightforward process. Like, karma isn't some mystical thing. Karma's like gravity. You know what I mean? You push
Yeah,
someone, they push you back.
exactly,
It's a circle.
exactly.
And karma goes like you're talking about, karma goes way beyond what we do immediately to one person. The
Mhm.
personal is the global. The
Oh,
things that we do ripple
amazing.
out and affect everything. So
It's so awesome.
there's so many really good books, so many really good books on this topic. If this is something you're into, man,
If
you're
you
gonna
can
dig it.
email me, that would be awesome. If you can email me some of the book, the
I'll
names of the
send you
books,
some suggestions. Yeah,
I would
I've got a few I
totally
think
be
you'd
into
like.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, good job again, Rebecca. Really good job.
Sure thing.
Who would like to go next?
I guess I can go.
Thanks, Noah.
So mine, I picked two things that I use, but I wanted to evolve on, I guess. So
Sure.
I picked Thai and reflexology, foot reflexology. And these are two things I use in my practice pretty regularly, but I always know that I could like figure out new ways to incorporate these things. And
Mhm.
so when I was doing my own clients, I decided to try to step it up with my Thai game just a little bit.
Yeah.
So instead of doing like a lot of like effleurage and stuff that I would do in my clinics, I tried to do more Thai than I would another kind of modality, I guess. And so I found that by doing Thai with a lot of my patients, they actually really enjoy Thai more than Swedish, because a lot of people either A, hate oil, or B, hate just like the concept of just derobing entirely to sit on a table for an hour. And so it was way easier to be able to be like, yo, like, you want to do a massage, just lay down, like right there, I got you. Like, you don't have to do anything else, just lay down, leave your clothes on, like, I got you. And so like, for, you know, because Thai is a lot of just compressions, stretches, like movement of joints. It's not
Yep.
necessarily like strokes, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then like foot reflexology, obviously I liked to try to take that from, instead of like, you know, the concept of like everything is like in the feet, like you could go to like, you know, organs and stuff like that through the feet. I just like to pay attention to the feet. That's how I use foot reflexology. I use it as a way to like study the feet and
Mhm.
kind of affect the foot, or like just manipulate the feet for people who I thought needed it. So I had a couple of patients, I say patients, not clients. I had one of my clients who was a
Well, you work in a chiro office. It makes
I
sense.
know. I had one, well, I've had a teacher who's like, do not call them patients, they're clients. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Terry, whatever. One of my patients is a firefighter.
It's contextual.
Yeah.
If you're working in a clinic and like with a chiropractor and they
Yeah.
refer to them as patients, then it's usually acceptable.
Okay, that's fair. Well, so one of my patients was a firefighter, right? So he wears
Okay.
boots and he's a lot of like stomping around. And when I had gotten to him, he had just done like training the whole weekend and his like he had like really bad backpack, like muscles and all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of foot reflexology on him because he didn't think that his feet were being impacted by his boots as hard as they were. And I blew his mind when he realized all of his shin muscles were like being affected by how horrid his feet were.
Yep.
And then I used my tie on him too. And for him, he's a huge dude. This guy's like 6'8", probably 300 pounds, sheer muscle, like firefighter, like big dude. And I can't like work him a lot of the time with standard modalities because he's just so big. So when I used tie, I liked to sit on, or when I use tie, I sit on their hamstrings. So I'll just like kneel down on hamstrings and like do glute compression or something in the meantime while I'm sitting on hamstrings, kind of multitask. But it really helps me manipulate my weight and save my joints. And so through tie massage, I've used multiple different stretches and joint manipulations that otherwise I would have used my hands and fingers for. And I've noticed that in the times that I used more tie, I walked out of the massage feeling far better than when I walked in, which is one thing I had forgotten I liked about tie so much, because it's both equal parts me stretching on you and then me stretching you. Like it's kind of like a like reciprocated yoga, I guess.
Yeah.
Which was kind of interesting. And so then I tried to, take those things to some of my smaller clients, because obviously you can't just like sit on everybody's hamstrings, right? So you kind of can for the most part, unless they're like really broken. But I found that even small people, you can manipulate your weight in such a way where you're like not completely on their body, but like you can pretty much sit on most people's hamstrings if they're comfortable with it and they don't like really hate you for it. That and forearms.
I've stood on people's calves before.
I remember the demonstration.
Yeah, I've done that before, and it looks bizarre. I'll grant you that, but until you have it done, first of all, it's not that painful. It's really not painful, and second of all, your calves, like especially with a firefighter, like you're talking about, think about the weight of those heavy boots. So every time he has to dorsiflex his foot, the tibialis anterior has to lift all that extra weight, which means there is extra tension now on tibialis posterior. So this muscle, even though it's a plantar flexor, it's constantly under tension because of all that weight of the steel-toed boots.
Yep.
So when you think about the core musculature around his calves, they're going to be rock hard and probably, I would bet, super sensitive. Particularly to really pokey pressure. Like if you come in with thumbs and try to strip, he's like, tap it out.
Exactly.
So if we switch to like try different tools, like a forearm, you can probably get really good pressure going up the calf. For clients like that, if you could position them on the floor in a way that you could stand on their calves, you can apply really solid pressure. It's very, very effective. And despite how it looks, it really doesn't hurt.
No,
really
not
doesn't.
at all. And I did that to people's forearms too. Like I always tout that I like to work on gamers and people like me who have like really bad carpal tunnel, like syndrome, like early onset carpal tunnel. And I found that that's very effective too, just like standing on people. And it always blows their mind how weight manipulation, like they're just like, oh, there's no way you're gonna stand on my forearm and not break my arm. And I'm like, no, you're fine. Just watch me manipulate my weight. You'll be fine.
Watch. As long as the pressure of your weight is oriented along the bone.
Right.
I mean, your foot is laid along the forearm. Yeah. If you put your foot like this across someone, that could be dangerous. But if the weight is distributed along the length of a long bone, bones are super strong.
Very much so.
They'll do fine.
Exactly.
And then, like you said, with gamers and early onset carpal tunnel, my forearm is a tool that I really like to use, focusing on the ulna, and you just kind of roll and use it like a rolling pin and roll all of that up towards the elbow.
Absolutely.
And then stretch. And then stretch. Yeah.
Yes. No, I love all that stuff. And also through tie, I've also learned to like, I guess, read muscle depth with other things other than my hands. So like using my knees to gauge what muscles are moving, or like, that kind of thing. So it's like using other body parts as my fingers when detecting muscle
Yes.
tightness, which has been very fascinating to kind of like dive into, I suppose. So
Yes.
I guess this
And in
was,
palpation, we talk about learning to palpate with our fingers.
yeah,
But I always tell my students, when you get really good, you'll palpate with your elbow. I mean, as you're
exactly.
sinking your elbow in, you're feeling the tissue resistance against your elbow. And
Mhm.
in the very beginning, you may not be very good at it, but you get better. I mean, you got to stick your elbow in a lot of hit glutes, and
Oh, yeah.
eventually your elbow will get sensitive. And from what you're telling me, Noah, it sounds like you're palpating with your elbows and with your knees and
Oh, yeah. I use
with your
yeah,
feet, anything
literally
that you're
everything.
using to
Yeah.
contact with the body, you're pulling the data,
Yeah. It's actually
which
very
is
interesting. It gets
exactly what you're
more in
supposed to do.
depth. It gets more in depth the more I do it. And I mean, working in a clinic helps me really get that like mass quantity of just people coming in, but like
Yeah,
delving into it with this project more specifically, but it's
yeah,
been very
good,
fascinating.
good. But remember, man, this is why they call it a massage practice, because we are always practicing to get
Oh,
better. It's
absolutely.
never a massage perfect.
Absolutely. No,
We
yeah,
always practicing.
for sure. It's a
Yes,
nice, it's a fun process for sure.
it sure is. It sure is. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, guys, I think, let me see, now that Noah has done his, we've got more than halfway through our students, and it is almost 1 o'clock here. Well, 10 o'clock. So why don't we take a quick break? We'll do 10 minutes. We'll come back and we'll get the last of these reports knocked out. Sound good, guys?
Sounds good.
Cool. Yeah. I was like, all right, thanks. Thanks for the input. All right, we'll do 10 minutes on the clock. Let me make sure my Zoom screen is all set up just so we stay on the same. All right, 10 minutes. I'll see you guys soon. All right, guys, we are back. All right, so just a few more left to hear from. Who would like to go next?
I can go, Dave.
Thanks, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay. So my professional goals here is to provide an evidence-based intervention that can be measured using objective and subjective data points to help the client's health, wellness, and performance goals. And this is through movement and breathing modalities. So that's like my North Star, if you like. Whenever I'm doing anything, I'm trying to refine that process to move there.
Excellent.
Techniques used, breathwork, synchronized breathwork, and other breathing modalities like from Franklin method, assisted stretching, so like static or PNF type stretching, so more like fascia and neuromuscular area.
Yep.
Using traction, and then something like, I don't know where this came across, but things like perpetual movement. So if you were to take, let's say you were doing a hamstring stretch, and rather than just hold it, you're sort of feeling in terms of internal, external rotation, abduction, adduction, okay. So sort of working through and not just like holding a stretch in a position, understanding that fascia doesn't work in that way in terms of just like straight lines type of deal. Yeah. So that's going on. Like a big interest, Franklin method, nervous system reset, polyvagal theory, neuromuscular stretching. So that's sort of where my interest lies at the moment. And really the objective when I take a client and work with them on the table is to increase breathing efficiency and moving efficiency for the outcome of increased relaxation. So trying to elicit more of a parasympathetic tone. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like my notable experiences, I was trying to do way too much assessment when I started, and I was trying to get too much done on the front end. And it made me think, okay, probably some kind of onboarding is going to be prudent for me in terms of any kind of screenings or any kind of questionnaires, probably have them fill out before they arrive. So that was like one really big learning moment for me. And then the other one, which I've started to learn, is like almost the flow of a session, how to start and onboard, how to move through the session, and then how to finish the session. And I'm sort of learning that pathway now. So starting with breath work, and for example, I'll be sat at the head of the client, they're facing up. I'll place my hands gently on their shoulders and then guide them through some breathing to sort of set the tone. Mm-hmm. And then in that point, we talk about talking to the benefits of the client in our weekly logs that we're talking about. And I found that's a good time to talk to them and communicate to them versus just having them sat there and you're trying to talk to them, tell them all the benefits, and they're like, wow, this is just going over my head. Mm-hmm. The one thing I tried different last week was communicating less, if that makes sense, and not feeling I have to talk through the entire session. And I didn't tell my client that's what I was going to do. I just did it. And I thought, well, I'll see what the feedback is here, because they might be like, oh, you were off today, or you didn't talk to me today, and I explained the purpose why, and their feedback was it felt more relaxing versus engaging in almost conversation all the time, versus just like, I'm just going to work on you and I'm going to be connected to my work and your body and mind, and that's where it's at. And if I need to communicate, I'll communicate, but not talking too much, so to speak. And then I've tried to set my clients' homework. And I think something you said in a class I was in, Dave, about resonate with me, of they spend such a small amount of time with you. And if you can try and empower them with some flexibility work or some breathing work, really simple tools. It might help them. It is tough because then you're trying to find a platform to communicate with them from. So what you're going to give them, a micro website to go to, Instagram, are you going to give them a piece of paper? Is it an app? So then it adds friction almost, because I don't think many people would take a piece of paper, you give it to them and they do it. I think it's like, oh, that goes on the kitchen counter and never gets seen again. So that's definitely something now in my consideration of how do I give that continuity of care in terms of, okay, we found this, let's work on this a little bit. So that's something I'm learning at the moment. In terms of like my objective and subjective feedback, I'm asking them to rate certain things. So I'll say, oh, how stressed do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 super stressed, 1 not stressed at all. Or so I'm getting that sort of pre and post, asking on follow-ups as well, being quite direct of like, tell me how that session went for you. Or being more direct, saying, did you enjoy that I didn't speak to you as much? So sometimes quite open and sometimes quite direct. And then from the objective side, I've tried to pull in some breathing efficiency testing and some, almost like what we did the other day, Dave, with the static postural assessments as well, and try and give some objective data to target the session, so to speak. So if I'm sort of very focused on fascia. I think that's what I'm really quite interested in. And there's some assessments called fascial net testing, and I can send it you. It's quite interesting, but they're really simple movements. You might get, for example, somebody just to go into flexion, and you're observing what the flexion looks like, and if it's into extension, and if it like doesn't resemble like a good amount of extension, you have to eyeball it. It's not like a measurement. Then you would deduce from that that the front fascial net is tight. And when you start looking at the world of breathing connection with movement, in the front fascial net, there is the heart, the lungs, the diaphragm, like big important muscles and areas for breathing efficiency. So it's helped me direct and guide a little bit. The polyvagal stuff that I did as an elective was really interesting to me, because I've been looking at parasympathetic, sympathetic for a long time. And I started to understand that it wasn't like on or off. It's not binary. Like there is like this ebb and flow. And if anyone's done it or doing it, you have like the sympathetic, then you have like dorsal vagal tone, and then I forget the other one, dorsal and ventral. And one is very reptilian, which is like shutting you down. And then the other one, which we've learned and evolved as mammals, is like this way that we trying to find safety, and we're always trying to find community and safety. And it was really interesting to me say that part of our system is like the mediator, so to speak. So it's trying to control when we need to be revved up, and it's trying to control when we need to shut down. And and it's always sort of on and working through. And I had a session with a client, and she has some back pain through an injury, and we were speaking about this, and she's getting a bit frustrated, like she's rehabbing, but every time she goes back into the environment where she hurt herself, it triggers an emotional response where her back starts to hurt. So I started to think about, what if we could take her there, like emotionally, in terms of the sympathetic stress of what the injury was, and then go into the parasympathetic modality of breathing and manual therapy, in order for her body to be able to cope. And she actually cried in the session when we did it. And I've never had that response from a client before. And then I just spoke to her and said, like, oh, how did you feel? I said, well, you opened a door that I'd felt I wasn't prepared to open. And I went in, I could start to see, and in her words, it was how unfair it was that she was doing all this work, and she had this connect. And the polyvagal theory is that pain is in the future, and it's still blown my mind, and I still can't really articulate it. So it's almost to say, you only realize the pain when you either think about it or somebody tells you about it, or you place yourself back in that situation. So maybe someone can articulate it better than me, but it was like this bit of a moment for me to say, quite often we will give people relaxation techniques and work when they're already semi-relaxed. And if we think the best analogy I can give is if, and sometimes I do this like with other people, is I'll put them in a cold plunge and they have a very sympathetic response, like completely natural, like heart rate increases, HRV will decrease, respiratory rate increases. And then we do breath work in the ice bath to try and control and calm them down again. So you're getting a very sympathetic stimulus and you're trying to train the body to say, be parasympathetic because you're in control and da, 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 da. So it's the first time I'd done it, not in a physical environment, in an emotional environment. And it was really interesting. And that happened this week. It was yesterday, I think. And it was like, okay, so it blew my mind a bit and I don't totally understand it. And it shows how complex we are. But yeah, that's where I'm going at the moment, trying to understand the autonomic nervous system, breathing, and how through breath work and understanding that system and through manual therapy and touch can we help support somebody. So yeah, that's where I'm at, Dave. So it's a little bit abstract, I know, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
No, I don't think it's abstract at all. Actually, I've been paying close attention to what you're saying. I have so much to say. First of all, very well presented. Like your communication of your ideas, very well done. I think I'm just going to kind of start back at the beginning and follow down through my notes. So the first thing that I remember writing down was you were talking about communicating in session with your clients, and you tried not communicating so much. One thing that works for me is there are a handful of cues that I will kind of train my clients, and these are nonverbal cues. So just to give you one example of what I mean, when I end my session, I don't say anything to the client in terms of like, well, that's all the time we have today, or our session is now complete. The first few times that I have this client, like the first 2 or 3, I will say something like, well, that's all the time we have for today. I down inflect my voice, right? You go into spa mode. So I'm not projecting like I am to a classroom. I say, that's all the time we have for today. And I finish my massage with kind of a signature move. It's nothing special. It's not like magical. It's just the thing I picked. I go around the shoulders, they're face up, I trace the clavicle around the shoulder 2 or 3 times. The final one, you stop on the shoulder, 1 tap, and then we're done. I take my hands off the client after that 1 pause and tap. And after the 2nd or 3rd session, I stop saying, that's all the time we have for today. And I just end with that nonverbal cue that signals to them, this means it's done. And I don't have to say anything else. And now I can quietly leave the room and just leave them to their thoughts or to gather themselves after the session. You could train them, for instance, when I'm applying pressure versus when I want you to move. There's a different way that I touch you when I'm pushing on you versus I'm nudging you to move your shoulder back. So all it takes is the first 2 or 3 sessions of verbalizing what you want them to do with a specific kind of touch. You pair those 2 stimuli, and then in the absence of the first stimuli, the brain will remember and the person knows what to do. So there's my first piece of advice. This is a way that we can continue communicating without talking and allowing the person to stay in that relaxed mode, but I can still give them instruction. The second thing that I remember we talking about was the giving them homework. And should I refer them to an app or should I give them a piece of paper? And I kind of agree with you. Giving them a piece of paper is not usually going to work. But my experience teaching massage students informs me. If I tell you how to do a stroke, you say, cool. And then 5 minutes later, you forgot what I said. If I instead show you how to do a stroke and I show you and then you perform it yourself, now you know how to do it. And now you can go tomorrow or a week from now and you can perform that same stroke again. So my advice there is don't give them a piece of paper, demonstrate the stretch to them and then make them do it in front of you. And then once they have felt their body and what it feels like to move in that stretch, now you've given them something that they can walk away from you with. And in order to keep them coming back, you give them like 2 or 3 a session. And then the next session, they say, oh, those work, awesome. And then you give them like 2 or 3 more. And so you breadcrumb your way to giving them a complete set of stretches. But you can't give it all away at first, right? Remember, because we got to keep them coming back. So just little bits at a time.
Awesome.
Good business. Okay, the next thing that I remember was your analogy with the the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, and that, you know, one increases heart rate and stimulates, and the other down regulates, and you think that these guys are like fighting each other. It is more like a car with a gas pedal and a brake, and you need both. You need to accelerate at times, right, to get away from a predator, or to, you need that little burst of sympathetic stimulation to wake you up and get out of bed in the morning. Like, that's what that is. We also need the parasympathetic, not just, because trauma is over and I need to return to normal, but the parasympathetic system is activated after you eat. So now we need to downregulate and bring the body's energies for digestion and for reproduction and things like that. So that's the analogy that I tend to use, is just like you have to have a gas pedal in a car, you also have to have a brake. Where the analogy will break down here is in a car, when you let your foot off the gas pedal, the car will continue to coast. The body, there is no in between, it's gas or brake. And we play those pedals, very frequently, and the body can really fine tune how much of each one at any given time. But I feel like that's a cleaner way to kind of summarize that these two systems, it's not one or it's always both. It's just a matter of degree. Yeah. And again, very, very well said, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Next up, we have Alora or Gloria. Who would like to go next?
I go first. I go next.
Okay. Hi, Gloria.
I go.
Good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see you too, David. So for me, what I include in the proposal was the craniosacral and the myofascial release.
Mhm.
My internet is sometimes very slow or freeze up. So in case that happens, let me know and I can go back and say what I was saying.
Sure, I understand.
Those two modalities I include on the proposal, and I've been using. I noticed that I've been using all ones too, and with clients, like hydrotherapy, reflexology, and some of the shiatsu techniques. So I've been incorporating some of the shiatsu techniques in the massage as well. And so I had the new clients first. That's what I decided to have, the new clients first. And I had one new client. Is frozen or are you, okay, so it's working, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So the first client that I had, she told me that she had a vertigo like a couple days before, and it was really bad that she ended up in the hospital. And I was kind of afraid at first because, you know, I was like, oh, great, new client with vertigo. And I was like, okay. So I explained the craniosacral, and I said that will be helpful for the vertical, but we need um, to start slow and let me know how you feel, because this is very recent and I want you to have another episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I start with the regular Swedish and try not to move too much the body because the vertigo. And so I did all Swedish massage, like all the modalities, like effleurage and all that, everything. And she did really well on the session. So I end up the I end up the session with the craniosacral, which she really loved. And I was asking her, let me know how you feel, because as soon you start any sign, then I need to stop. I was afraid also to switch from prone to supine position because the movements sometimes can't, um, the vertigo can come back. So
Yep.
I told her just move slowly, switch from prone to supine position, and keep checking with her. And she was like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. So she did, and she was fine and everything. So she really liked the craniosacral therapy, and
Mhm.
she felt very relaxed. And she said I checked with her like 24 hours after, see how she was doing, if any issues after the massage. And she said she felt really relaxed and she slept really well. She said no vertigo at all, and she wanted to come back as soon as possible for another uh, session. And I was like, great, that's good. So, but I didn't have any openings because, you know, I already had some clients schedule my work and school, that work that I need to do. And I told her, I said, I will make time for you. Right now I'm doing this, I'm in the school, I'm working and seeing um, new clients. But as soon I have an opening, I'll let you know. And she keeps calling me. Well, I saw her, I made time for her because I know she was going through this vertigo um, recuperation, and she was very happy. She was very happy, and I did another session, same, and she says she feels really good. So I have one client for future. uh-huh.
It's one at
um,
a time, baby girl. It's one at a time,
yes,
right?
yes. So
So the
as
only I will just say, you know, it's wonderful that you made a client, and I'm not complaining. I would just like to a friendly observation.
Mhm.
Friendly observation. It's very important in our line of work that we're able to draw boundaries. There will always be a client going through vertigo. There will always be a client going through
Yeah.
something, and if I can make time for a client, I make time for your clients. It's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is just remember all of our clients are going through something. So
Yeah.
your boundaries are important too. Don't
Mhm.
don't make sacrifices because they're going through something, because they're all going through something. We have to make sure that our families and our needs are taken care of as well.
Mhm. Yes,
Just a
that's what I
friendly
told her.
observation.
I thank you, David. And that's what I told her. I said, you know, I have class, I work, and I need time for do my homework, and So at this time, I don't have time, but as soon as I have an hour to spare, then I'll let you know. And that's what I did. So she
Beautifully
understood.
done. Beautifully done.
She understood that, everything that I'm going through right now with everything that I have to do. So she was patient, to wait for when I had the time to call her. So she
Mhm.
did. Um,
Good.
and so I had another client new client, and when she came, she told me, she said, well, I always have a sciatic pain, and it's always bothering me, and I was like, okay. It just every time they say sciatic pain, I always click in my mind you, David, because um, what you said in one of the classes, how you do the sciatic technique with your elbow.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
but I was like, no, I'm not that good to do the elbow and the in that area yet. But I told her that um, I I will do what I can to help with the pain. So while I was doing the massage, it was a very soft um, touch that I did on the medius gluteus,
Mhm.
more on the um, IT band and gluteus,
Mhm.
medius gluteus, and then she she kind of pulled uh, from my hand, like
Mhm.
when
Pull away.
pull away,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, that hurt, and she was like, that's the spot that it hurts, and I was like, well, this is not the sciatic, where the sciatic nerve comes through. I said, this
Mm.
is more your muscle, on the side, on your hips.
Can you try to describe to me where this pain was located on the hip?
So it was, let's see if I can show you here.
Yeah.
It was here on this side.
That seems like glute medius to me.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I told her. I told her this is
Mm.
more like gluteus medius, and I
Yeah.
explained what it was. I said this is on your hip, more than on your butt.
Mhm.
So I explained to her that I said, did someone tell you that it was the sciatic nerve? Because the sciatic nerve, it runs more like in the middle of your butt,
Of the
uh,
yeah.
not
It's
on the
more
side.
posterior than
Yes.
lateral.
So
Yeah.
I explained to her, in her words to understand me what I was
Mhm.
trying to say. And she was Spanish-speaking client, so I had to explain on the way she understand me. So I
Sure.
said, the sciatic nerve is more on the middle of your butt, not on the side. So this, to me, is more on your hip, on the side of your hip. So it clicks to me that it was the medials, the gluteus medius, and it's bilateral pain, and it was more on the right side than on the left. And because of the history that she filled out, she said that her work is more sitting all day and she don't have any physical activity. And I was like, well, that's what it is. I told her, because you're sitting at work and you don't have any physical activity, then that's what the pain, that's what the muscle is very painful. So I just give kind of like myofascial release type of technique, very soft and trying to generate heat. So I did a hydrotherapy on her with heat on on um, on the hips,
Mhm.
and while I was working on the upper body, on the shoulders, and it did help. Um, So when I was doing the massage on the medius gluteus, I was also asking to do the breathing technique. So I was kind of putting a little more pressure every time she breathed in and out, putting more pressure and just hold it and then release and give like a very soft massage. And I did that. And it helped the pain, reduce the pain in both sides. And I also did some movements with the legs. So that way it is like passive ROM. So that way I can help the muscle move without her doing any strength on that muscle herself. So I did that and it was very helpful also for her.
Good.
And I finished it with, I always try to finish the sessions with the clients with the craniosacral, because at that time they are already released, they are on supine position. So it's very helpful to do the craniosacral and they love it. They love that technique and they love for me to finish with that. So that client with the medius gluteus pain came back in a week. And guess what? She didn't have pain because she was doing I told her what to do at home, what kind of stretch and exercise to do at home. And she did. She said she walked for 30 minutes. She was using a stationary bike that she had at home. And I show how to do stretch in bed. I said, you don't even have to go outside if it's cold. You can do the stretches at home in your bed before going to bed and when you wake up. So I show her like in the table, I laid out myself and I show her what to do. But now that you mentioned to Michael that to show them and ask them to do it will be better, then next time I will try that. But it seems for the results, it seems like she did what I told her to do. Plus she did more because I didn't say about the stationary bike, but she had one and she said, I started using it. And I was like, so when I press on that same spot that it was painful, she didn't even move. She didn't do anything. And I was like, wow, this was painful a week ago. Yeah. And I put pressure and she was like, yes, it's better. And I was like, way better. I said, because now I can put pressure in this muscle and you don't say it hurts. And she was like, because I've been doing this and this and that. And I was like, great, well, keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
Yeah.
So I was very happy about the results.
Well, whatever you're doing, Gloria, you keep doing it because it's clearly working. But you should be very proud of yourself.
The results, yeah. Now I can say, okay, you were trying to say something.
I was, hips are one of the ones that I'm pretty good at. Hips are something that I'm really good at, like working and getting into. So one of the ways that I like to work, particularly on glute medius, is you have your client laying face down and you bring your elbow and you plant it on the table right in between their greater trochanter and the iliac crest. So you're right in their hip. So as they lay down, you plant your elbow and now you use your ulna and you roll in a circle. And now you scrape out that meaty section with that little blade of your ulna, and it feels really good. And just stay there for a few moments and just roll that muscle out. Then what we can do is we can flip our client onto their side, and you
Oh,
drape them. You don't have to undrape them or anything. You drape them up. You get them a little slack in the sheet so they can move their leg around. But when they're on their side, you lay your forearm on that same spot and you have them abduct their hip. So you lay the pressure down, they lift the leg up, and then they release. And then you just work the muscle a little bit and then do it again. Sink your pressure, they lift up, hold for just a few breaths, just a few moments, release, and you work that out. And then get in with heel of hands and just really like knead that muscle, get it nice and loose. And then you bring the leg down into an adduction stretch. So you bring the hip across the midline and really stretch out that hip. And then you flip them over and do the same thing on the other side.
Great, thank you.
Lots
David.
of really cool ways of getting into the hip.
Yes. So she was very happy and
Good job,
so-
Gloria.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I did it. Great. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And she was happy too, because she says she's been having that pain for a while and everybody was telling her that it was the sciatic nerve.
Mhm.
And I was like, it's not the sciatic nerve, it's the muscle.
And Gloria, man, you told them they were wrong. You told her what it was. You were
Yeah.
right, and you made it feel better. You made a client for life. She'll be with you for life.
Yeah.
Good job, Gloria.
Thank you. And I can feel that she was very trusting me.
Yeah.
Like after I talked to her the first time, even the other client that with the vertigo also, I felt like they really trusted what I was doing and what I said to them to do and not to do. So that was very, very helpful for me too.
Good job.
Yeah. So I also noticed with clients that they like the cross stretch a lot and the breathing technique with that.
Mhm.
So I've been doing that with them. And reflexology, I've been doing reflexology also. Most of the clients that I've been seeing, the new ones, they either work standing all day or they walk a lot
Mhm.
at work. So the reflexology has been very helpful. It's not in my proposal, but I've been doing it a lot. I notice the
Yeah, that's fine.
reflexology, foot reflexology.
And I think several of you guys now have noted that your clients tended to respond a lot better and were engaged more when we were doing breathing exercises or when we're having them move. So especially moving forward, remember massage and everything else that we're doing on the table, it's not something that we're doing to the client. It's something that we're doing with the client. It's they're doing something and we are doing something. This is an experience that we are doing together. It's not just lay on the table and just let me do my thing. It's going to be much more effective when they're participating in an activity rather than, oh, all I have to do is just check out. Okay. So get them breathing, get them stretching, get them moving, get them participating. Yeah. Active range of motion when you can. Yeah.
Yes.
Good job, Gloria.
Thank you.
And
go ahead,
we need to move on. We're running short on time.
So
Laura. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Gloria.
No, thank you.
Laura, you're up next. Last but not least.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. My bad. Two modalities that I chose were the foot reflexology and the hot stone massage. And I really wanted to focus on that hot stone because it was definitely one of, actually my favorite elective taken so far. And so I think, I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of the quarter, I had emailed you about some like actual like professional like stone warmers and stones. So I put in an order for that. And then I went ahead and did like my first few clients with kind of the setup that I have now or had then. And it went okay. Like the the sessions went okay, kind of how they went before. I had one of my clients who is a coworker of mine, and she had broken her foot over the summer, like early last summer, and had a bunch of surgeries on her foot. And so her whole, and that was on her left foot. So her whole right side was just tense and tight from compensating.
Yep.
And so I told her that I was doing this for this class, and she's like, I really need some relief, especially my right side. She's like, I've been just overcompensating, just, taking the weight off the left foot. And so we did the first massage. She loved it. And then I think it was last week or the week before, I got my new setup, and it works so much better. Oh my goodness. It's like night and day. Even my clients notice a difference. They noticed how much more fluid it was, and how the rocks definitely stayed warmer, and
Stones.
the stones, sorry. Stones definitely stayed warmer. And my coworker, definitely noticed. She's actually come to me, I think 3 times. She's been like one of my most regular, and she's noticing a difference at work, just walking better, feeling better in general. She's noticed definitely, now that she's several months past surgery, so she's been able to like walk on it and bear weight, but even like, because her walking pattern changed, her whole muscle like structure had changed from compensating that left side.
Absolutely.
She definitely noticed a difference, especially after we started working with the newer stones. She's definitely noticed a difference, and I've given her some like stretches and little like muscle building exercises for her left side, and she's just, every time I see her at work, she just keeps saying like how much better she feels and how much like her work has improved. And yeah, that's the most progress I've seen on a client so far. And I think it's because she's been to me several times consecutively, and she's just loving it. We did a little bit of the reflexology on her, just kind of gently on her foot, a little bit of gentle range of motion exercises, because she cleared it with her doctor, said that was okay. And so we did a little light work on the affected area, and then like this most recent massage, we did a lot of work on her left leg, kind of up higher from the surgery point, just those muscles on her left leg. And again, she's just saying how much looser her muscles feel. She doesn't feel like she's like having to hold it all the time.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. And that's one of the reasons why I like hot stone so much, because you don't see results like that with as many modalities as you do with hot stone.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is so much to be said for a stone routine that's fluid, and the right equipment it's vital to have the right equipment.
It's so much nicer having confident in like the temperature, and know that everything's right, and know that I have the right equipment for what I'm doing. It just makes me feel so much more comfortable doing it too. I've gotten more comfortable in my routine.
So let me ask you this: when you go into your massage space and you walk to your stone heater, when you lift up the lid, what does it look like inside there?
It's very neat. I keep it very organized.
Perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, you need rows of stones organized by size. So you've got your bigger ones, your middle size ones, your small ones, and like all your little tool ones, your little oval shaped ones and stuff onto the side. So my next free piece of advice from me to you, a white towel. Put a white towel at the bottom so those stones pop.
Yes,
because I've seen people that will use, but remember, you're usually working in the dark. And so white is best. I've seen people who will get these reusable, because they're like, oh, I can just wash it and reuse it, but it's a black rubber mat for the stones to sit on. And that's great until you're in the dark with the client, and now you open up the lid and you can't see your stones. So a white towel underneath, and then a second dry towel, and just put the stones on the dry towel, give it a quick fold, squeeze, unfold, and now they're dry. And they're still hot. And yeah, training you're gonna have to train your hands to reach into that water. Just your hands will acclimate over time. You'll toughen up, but you've got to be able to get in, grab the stones you need, dry them off, and get back to the body. And that leaving the body, dumping your cold stones back in the water, grabbing your fresh stones, and returning to the body has got to be a quick, smooth, fluid and it takes practice.
Yeah, one thing that my clients noticed too is she really liked the sound of the water. Like even when I wasn't like actively massaging her, when I was like getting the stones or putting them back, she liked having the sound of the water there. She said it was very calming.
Good. Typically I would, when I would train someone in hot stone, I would train to return and retrieve your stones as quietly as possible.
Mhm.
Try to do it very quickly and almost silently. And this might take a little bit of my, give me just 1 second. Okay, so you can see my screen, my little notes. Actually, I want a full screen note. Here we go. Okay, so when I have my hot stone unit on the inside, I will have my largest stones set up like there, and then my medium stones, my small stones, and then all my tools, all my little oblong shaped ones. I've got one that's kind of shaped like that, just all the weird cool ones.
Mhm.
So when I take the stones out, I'm using them on the body, and then they start to lose their heat. So I return them to the unit. If they're a medium-sized stone, they get returned here.
Mhm.
Medium, medium, medium. So as I'm taking these off of here, I'm just putting them back in the same column,
Mhm.
just against the other wall. This way I can keep them organized. And now I know that stone is going to be my hottest stone,
Mhm.
because the heating element is not in the floor. The heating element is in the walls of the unit.
Mhm.
So these stones closest to the walls are going to heat up the fastest.
Okay.
So I can use that to plan what stone I'm going to grab, so that again, when I break contact with the body, I can just slip those stones back into the water, grab the 2 stones that I want to take, quick pat dry, right back to the body. The whole process should be under 5 seconds and virtually silent.
Yeah.
But that's not what we expect now. That's what we get. That's the goal that we aspire for.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're working on their feet and the hot stone unit is up at the head of the table, you're not going to do 5 seconds. It's going to take longer if you just work with it. But keeping your stones organized in that hot stone unit, vital. Working on the transition and the flow, because you got to break contact. But it sounds like you are well on your way, and I'm really, really glad to know that you like hot stone as much as I
I
do.
love hot
It is
stone. It's
just the
absolutely my
best.
favorite.
It is just the best. Whew. Good job. Good job, guys. All right. Let me think. Everybody's doing so well today. I love the feedback. I guess if I could say one thing that I'm seeing the common thread through everyone. Number one, we're noticing that our clients get much better results when they're participating, rather than we're just doing massage to them. So finding ways of getting our clients involved, whether that's through breathing or whether that's through demonstrating stretches and things to them, and then having them show us those stretches. And even learning ways to communicate that maybe they're not verbal, but we can still relay information through our touch, such as what direction I want them to move, or that I don't want them to move, or session is over. Yeah. Anything else anybody would like to share before we break for the day? All right, well, since we're all so talkative today, I think you guys did a wonderful job. These reports were fantastic. I look forward to our 10th week meeting, week 10. You guys do have a paper to write for that one, heads up. So make sure that we're preparing those papers, and I look forward to meeting with all of you in week 10.
Thanks. Well, I am working on the paper.
Nice. Nice. I can't wait to read them. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And I will
Thank you,
see all of
Joey.
you very shortly.
Thank
you.
you.
Enjoy
much.
Florida while you're there.
Thank you. I
Take care.
will.
See everyone later.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.